Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day so far. We're going to do a little analysis of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4, or Chapter 12, entitled The Siege. And this was a great episode. I really dug it. Starts out with Mando's ship. You remember from the last episode, it was pretty banged up. And the Mon Calamari didn't, he barely patched it up just enough to keep it going, but you see at the beginning of the episode it was messed up bad, and he had the child crawling in this little hole chasm in the ship to fix some wires and do some rewiring, trying to tell him, no, the red wire goes there, no, that's the blue wire, no, put the blue wire where the red wire went, and so on and so forth, and he's just like, I do, and so forth. And he's like, no, whatever you do, don't put them together. And what do you think he does? Zzz, and you just see smoke. That was very reminiscent of, it reminded me very much of Baby Groot from Guardians movie, when he's telling him, no, don't press the button. No, not that button. Press the other one. When that was very Baby Grootish. That whole scene was adorable. And then they decide to go back to Navarro to fix up his ship, which I had a feeling that's why they were going to go back to Navarro. Partially because I had a feeling the way it looked from the last episode, they wouldn't make it all the way to Corvus. And two, since Dave Filoni directs episode 5, that's when we think Ahsoka was going to show up anyway. So it made sense. So he's heading back to Navarro. He gets there. Before that, we see down in there where the old Mandalorian covert used to be, the underground facilities. You see, I cannot remember the name of these creatures, the ones with the little butt chins. I cannot think. I have to go back and look at that. They had taken over that area, and you see them about to kill and eat this little ferret-looking creature. But then they say, "Wait, the Marshal. The Marshal? You're thinking the Marshal? No, not Cobb Vanth, but the Marshal apparently is now Cara Dune in Navarro, and she's taking these guys out. And the choreography of this fight and everything, you can tell just the physicality of it is fantastic. Gina Carano back as Cara Dune, and she takes them out, and then saves the little creature. The creature was wanting to go with her, but she's like, little guy, you can't go with me. Cute little ferret creature. Then she see her reunite with Grief Karga as they greet the Mandalorian as he lands back on Navarro. And he explains, my ship's pretty bad off. You think you could help me out? It's like, yeah, we might can see what we can do. So they get his people to work on it. And you see one of them look back at him as they go, a little weirdly. They're going through the town, and Mandalorian, he notices how much Navarro has changed, how it seems to be flourishing, so many more people as far as the trade market, and it's just as far as the peacefulness of this town compared to what it was when he last was there. It's a big change almost from last time. And they mention they run into the old Mithril, the one that Mando had captured in the first season, and apparently he's working for Grief Karga now. Grief Karga has taken more of a position as far as help running the town now, and then he put Cara Dune in charge as far as cleaning up the town as far as crime, and that's why she's the Marshal now. And Grief Karga rocking a new little beard and a real nice outfit, royal looking outfit. Reminds you of kind of Count Dooku-ish a little bit of an outfit. And Mithril is a little surprised to see him. He's like, yeah, I remember you. He even mentions how he's still blind out of his one eye and from the carbonite. I think he's serving about 350 years for Grief Karga, because he had escaped the first time, I think, from Grief Karga, it said. And now he's back working for him for a little while. But Grief Karga and Cara Dune have a situation they need Mando to help them with, because they pretty much made Navarro a peaceful place in this certain section, but there is an old outpost apparently from what's left of the Empire, from when they were there in the first season. What's left of what was came from Moff Gideon's squad of troopers, and they want to cleanse that and get rid of that so Navarro can be totally safe and peaceful going forward. They go to this outpost, but first they get the Mithril. They make him tag along because he says, you got to do this. You work for me. I'll take off about 100 years off your sentence. You'd be the driver. But first, they drop Baby Yoda off at a little area, and it's a school. They've made one of the buildings into a school, and you see a C-3PO like droid teaching the class, and you have a bunch of students, and the fact that just Baby Yoda's in a classroom just sitting there, just drops them off like it for daycare or at school. It was pretty cute. It was a cool scene. And Mando don't want to leave him, but he said no. They assure him he'll be safe here. And then the exchange, you see Baby Yoda just taking it all in. Then he looks over, and what do you know? Oh, food, little cookies, and he's insinuating he wants some from that kid, and the kid's like, he even sticks his hand out, and he's like, no. So Baby Yoda's thinking, well, if you don't give it to me, I'll take it. So next thing you know, you see his hand raise up, and you see the cookies, whoop, and yum yum, eat them up. He's got those kids' cookies now. But they go off to the outpost. They're breaking in to it. They get in, and I like the Mithril. He's just a little bit of a comic relief. Some people didn't like him from the first season, but I didn't mind him.
Could you point me in the direction of the vac tube, please?
And the fact that he's back and having to work together with them, I like that. And so they get in the facilities, and they're taking out all these troopers, and a little more than they thought at first when they're going in there, because Mando even says, yeah, abandoned. And I was like, really? Because there was already a few they had to take out. They make their way through. They think it's like full of weapons and different things, but turns out they find these like tubes with these creatures or beings in it, and they see a hologram from Dr. Pershing, and I think he's talking about essentially he's talking about they were taking Baby Yoda's blood and transferring, and they even mentioned the M count, which probably for the stands for the Mandalorians. Midichlorian count within Baby Yoda. They only got so much the first time because they couldn't take too much at one time without killing the child. But it worked on the experiment within the new host, as far as the transferring of the midichlorians through Baby Yoda's blood. But then it wore off after time, and the host it perished. But so they're going to need more of Baby Yoda's blood for this to work. And in the tube, you almost see it looks like Snoke, possibly, or something like him, because you even see an indention in his head. It looks smaller, but we don't know in what phase of the experiment this is. And you already see them experimenting around and playing around with the possibility of connecting this to the First Order, and if that's Snoke and cloning and things as far as that goes, especially with the way Episode 9 was with the Emperor. I wonder if we're seeing a little bit of a bridge there to fill in some of those gaps to help give us more insight in the whole situation. So, but then he actually says in there, he's saying all this about taking Baby Yoda blood, and we need more from the asset, and he's like, I won't fail you again, Moff Gideon. And this is the first time confirmation that the Mandalorian or Grief Karga or Cara Dune, any of them know that Moff Gideon is still alive. And then all of a sudden they're in just a total panic because he left the child at the school. Now knowing Moff Gideon's still alive, he's freaking out. They're both on a tear to get back there to make sure the child's safe, especially Mando. So they both leave. Mando just jetpacks away. He says it's gonna be quicker. Grief Karga, Cara Dune, and Mithril just go to get out of there else in another way. So they blast their way out of there, and then they get one of the old cruisers from some of the Empire remnants, and they fly out of there off this cliff, and it smashes the Mithril speeder before that, and he's like, "Oh man!" And but I like earlier in the episode he as he leaves the speeder, it's like he beeps it like a car, like it has a little car alarm thing, and they crash into that. Then all of a sudden you see a really cool speeder chase. A few of them come down into the ravine and are chasing them, and you got Greed Karga on the guns, and Cara Dune driving. They take out the speeders, but then all of a sudden you have the TIE fighters coming down and shooting at them inside the canyon. And it's overall a really cool shot, really cool chase, I think, speeder chase, and then the TIE fighters also. The way that was that whole scene was shot was really good, and this whole episode was really good. This was Carl Weathers, I think debuted directing, and it felt really good to me. It still felt like Star Wars the way he put it all together, especially with his character being in this episode. I figured it'd work well, and Cara Dune got highlighted a lot in this episode. And in this episode, I noticed we see more of. It shifted away. It wasn't on Mando as much. You're kind of catching up with Greed Karga and Cara Dune because you haven't seen them at all this season, and you hit on Baby Yoda a little bit, and then Mando a little bit, but Greed Karga and Cara Dune got a good bit. You're catching up with them yet, and what are they up to? Spend a little time with them to make up for lost time. But then they eventually get away from the speeders and the TIE fighters. No, actually, scratch that. There's one TIE fighter left, and I think one, maybe more than one. But then all of a sudden you see the Razor Crest come up and blast it, and he got back to the ship in time, his ship. And then you see with the child, so luckily he got to the child safely before anything could happen or he could be found. So then he helps them out, chasing one up into the atmosphere and eventually blast it. And you can tell just the way, like when he maneuvers and his thrusters gives out, and then he comes back down. Not gives out, it shifts. His ship got an upgrade, which it severely needed. But then he talks to Greed Karga and Cara Dune, tells them, don't really have time to talk, but I have to, especially now that he knows Moff Gideon is still alive. He has to go find Ahsoka, and then now he's aware of this looming threat with Moff Gideon after the child and what he wants the child for. Not knowing before, but now he knows he wants the child's blood for experimentation. And the next time they get him, if they get him, the child might not be so lucky because they need more of that for their experiments with the midi-chlorians. And then you seen little Baby Yoda spit up we had the cookies when he was twirling around and around. He's like, "Bleh." That was great. And then you see a cool moment with after Mando leaves, one of the New Republic pilots from the last episode. Not I can't remember his name. Actor plays on Kim's Convenience, but him and I'm assuming Trapper Wolf was there too, but you don't see him. You see the two X-Wing. I'm assuming both of them. He kind of talks to Greed Karga, and Greed Karga kind of denies all this. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." Transponder. He's like, y'all's stuff couldn't pick up hardly anything that's pre-Empire, and he shakes him off, and then he goes outside, talks to Cara Dune, and they have a little bit of a moment. He's, telling her, you know, asking about joining, the resistance, or well, or not the resistance, yeah, the New Republic, yeah. And he mentions that she was on Alderaan, her family, and then that she lost everyone, and he apologizes and is sorry for her loss, and then he puts a little rebellion, little pin badge thing right there, just for as a little reminder, just to think about that offer. So we're wonderful to get more backstory or insight on that development as far as her past or going forward with that exchange that he had with her about the joining of the New Republic. And then we go to Moff Gideon. You see this massive cruiser, and we were wondering how big of a cruiser that he had, if he had one, and it was pretty big. And you see the girl talking about. I think she mentioned something about. I remember her mentioning she's talking to the. Apparently, there was a tracking device put on Mando's ship, the Razor Crest, from one of the aliens that worked on it, who was supposedly that worked for Grief Karga. And then she reassures her, you will be, it mentions about the new era, which I'm assuming too that this is going to be that shift between the remnants of the Empire and the starting to shift into what will be the First Order. And then you see her go talk to Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon is, he asks, is the asset still with him, did you get the tracker on there? And he's like, well, we'll be ready for him when we meet up with him. And then you see all these pods with these bodies. It almost looks like something like Darth Vader's helmet, or some kind of trooper or soldier that we're guessing where they're infusing the midi-chlorians into. Still don't know if Moff Gideon is force sensitive or not, but I would think if he was, he might be trying to do that to himself, possibly. So we're assuming he's these experiments with the midi-chlorians and trying to transfuse them into the either these soldiers that we see in these little pods. So it's setting something huge up, I think. Too, now we assume we're going to see Moff Gideon and Ahsoka fight, because he's going to take his forces. Apparently, now that he's tracking Mandalorian, he's going to follow her, or follow him right to her. And we don't know who's with Ahsoka too. Maybe Sabine, maybe Rex too. So next week is going to be nuts. But this episode was really good. It's setting up a lot. It's definitely connecting kind of possibly little things to the sequel trilogy now. Seeing the beginnings of how we could get from here to there. And still what role Moff Gideon is going to have in this, and as far as this whole show. Because next week between him and Ahsoka, I don't think Moff's going to die, Gideon, because I think he's going to be the big bad over this whole show, I think. But I don't know if Ahsoka's going to die either. I don't think so. They might battle it out, but somehow neither one of them kind of ends up perishing. Maybe something intervenes to where they have to separate. I don't know. Or Moff could get the child next week somehow, and they have to then... Mandalorian has to get... helping forces and his allies to help get the child back. That would be a cool aspect, to see the child in Moff Gideon's hands for a little bit. As much as I wouldn't like it, I kind of would like it just to see what that could look like. So that's kind of my analysis of chapter 12, the Siege. And I'll have a longer breakdown of my podcast here soon, and I'll have some follow-up videos breaking down little individual stuff about this episode. So thank you for tuning in. Give this video a like if you like it, and subscribe. But until Until then, this is the way.